Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Never played.
You have a channel.
Oh, I'm still in this video. I'm still...
Just gotta.
Yo, shout out to Bok Gaming, man.
This is my video now. You can hijack.
Hey everyone, this is Curb and I bring you another standard match. Today on the left we have playing Jheva, Matt from Bok Gaming. And of course today he is going to be going up against Zorga on the right. So now Zorga, definitely still a very solid deck. The deck hasn't really gotten a whole bunch of changes. I think he got like 1 or 2 cards in set 13, so it is still in a pretty decent place. Of course, you know, we do have the problem of the Stride deck sets, so that does kind of hamper a lot of playability for some decks, I would say. But one of those decks that is actually not very much affected by Shiranui is actually the one on the left, that being Jheva. Jheva is one of those rare decks that does have access to quite a bit of resist. You've of course got the Trickstar, and you've got things like Veil's Arena, as well as the one Prayer Dragon that does allow you to give the thing underneath it resist. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into the actual match. So we do have Jheva going first, riding up, and then of course doing nothing. We have Ranker Chain being ridden into, drawing the 2 cards, and then discarding that Clouded Miasma for the cost, of course, of that grade 1. We have the Trickstar being called behind that Reno, going to be swinging at the Vanguard. Pretty much an unguardable number, hitting into a critical trigger there, so going to be pushing Zorga all the way to 2 already. So moving back to Zorga, probably just been discarding, so we're discarding that Neil Serving, so that's going to be a very good setup for later turn, adding that Clouded Miasma back to our hand. So it looks like we do have a copy of Gather Upon Me. If we want to be a little bit aggressive, we can totally, you know, proc that. We do also have the RPD, something like that, Roaming Prison Dragon, RPD, sure. Anyways, before we do that, we are going to be using the Depth Illus, the Dragon Tree Wrench there, using this skill once again correctly. Wow, I'm so impressed with people who can manage to resist not searching first. I can never resist that. But we are getting the marker, and then of course searching out the Mask of Hydreigon, calling down a Shadow Cloak here. So that's going to allow us to mill anything, because we don't actually have any orders in our drop zone right now. So it looks like we are going to be milling that Habitat, probably planning to use it with Alchemagic maybe next turn. But either way, it's going to be a good card to just have in the drop zone, whether we're going to be getting it back, whether we're going to be using it from the drop, or I don't know, whatever we want to do with it. So it looks like we are going to be going for that Gather Upon Me, discarding the copy of the Clouded Miasma. We could have also discarded that Mask of Hydreigon, going to be calling back the RPD and giving it an extra 10k. So now we're totally ready for the swing. Going to be swinging with that Depth Illus first. Looks like that is just a 5k guard, so theoretically we could, you know, block it. But at the same time, if we get a defensive here, as we just did, we do basically shut down all of these attacks. So of course this Vanguard is going to be swinging with 2 drives, going to be throwing down a 15k block there, and it turns out to be the correct choice, because we do see a critical trigger and a PG being flipped over in that twin drive there. And this RPD swing for 2 crits at 25, but thanks to that defensive trigger, we can just easily guard for 15, for 35, and block it very easily. So heading back to Jheva, looks like we're just thinking about what we want to discard here to go into that Jheva. And looks like it is going to be, was that a PG? No, I don't think that was a PG. I think I'm just, I saw yellow and I'm like, okay, that's PG, right? Because, I don't know, Dragon Empire's PG is very yellow, and that's really all I know about it. Looks like we are using the skill of the Ryu, I think, to check the top 7 and then call a what's it called, a Prayer Dragon. We do get that 1 Prayer Dragon, which is going to allow us to Soul Blast 1, pitch 1 to call yet another Prayer Dragon straight from the deck. One of the amazing cards that Jheva did get out of set 13. Basically a card that can tutor for any other card, which is it's kind of just amazing to think that we have something like that in standard, and something that Jheva really needed it. We do see these, is that Stravarina? I once again, I am plagued by the inability to remember the names of all these crossover dress units. Anyways, looks like we are using the skill of the, I forget what it is, the Lure Reflector guy. He lets you Soul Blast one, check top 5 or something, and then looks like we're adding a Mirror's Varina off of that. But of course, that Stravarina is really the main goal here, because it is giving your Vanguard an extra 10k. It's also giving it triple drive, making it so that you actually have threatening numbers. You have threatening drive checks. Looks like we do see the Jheva skill proc there, discarding a card and then calling back the, is that Gallon Light? It's not Gallon Light, Dite. And the Trickstar just making a 15k column, which is a very nice number against this 10k grade 2 Vanguard. And of course, I think maybe you go 5k shield here and then guard with the depth, or intercept with the depth. Looks like we're going to be guarding with the Spoof Shade as well as that intercept. That's probably the easiest attack to guard. We have the Stravarina swing for that 23, so that is an easy 15k block here. And then we do have the Vanguard swinging here for 23. I think that we probably just take this. We see a heal trigger being procced here, activating, and then a second heal trigger, which isn't going to activate, but it is still going to give it another 10k to that Stravarina. We do see one defensive here, so, but after 2 defensives, that is going to be hitting for way too big. I think you either just like PG this, or you take it. Although I think I would have rather taken it. You don't really want to be at super high damage right now, but at the same time, like, you might want to keep that PG. But at the same time, you know, Zorga is a deck that is actually capable of recycling a lot of things, so guarding with a PG now might not be like the worst thing. Theoretically, we could just revive the PG, and then we do have that Shadow Cloak on board to bounce it to our hand. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we're going to be doing here. We do have to pitch for the ride up into the grade 3. Looks like we're thinking about pitching that mask. Definitely not a bad choice if you have another order. Then if you don't actually have another order, you might want to keep it around. But looks like we are just going to be pitching it, get into the drop zone right away, using the skill of Zorga to go ahead and Caramblast one and revive something. I think honestly a really good option would be that PG, but looks like we're calling back the Depth Ilwa. I'm not sure why we went for that, unless you intend to like use the skill and get another Dragon Tree marker and search. But that seems like very unnecessary. But what do I know? I'm not a Zorga player. Looks like we are just going into the Zorga masks straight away. I mean, there's really no reason not to. We get the Persona Ride, and of course we still have access to Alchemagic, and we're going to be getting a whole bunch of extra power. The one thing that we are kind of missing here is the second RPD, which would, you know, definitely help make a lot of big numbers. We still do have that Depth Ilwith just staying there. Oh, thank you, Matt, for showing me your hand and showing me that you have an OT in your hand and a bunch of triggers. That was very helpful. Now I don't have to guess what you have in your hand. Anyways, Zorga opting to play the Angel Ladder as its order, choosing what to Alchemagic with it. It looks like we're going to be Alchemagicing it with that Habitat there. So, Angel Ladder not really that impactful in this matchup. I mean, theoretically, Jheva could go 5 material Strat Varina and then literally wipe the board and the 1 marker, which would be very funny, but not actually very optimal. Like, why would you do that? It doesn't really do anything for you. Anyways, giving the Vanguard an extra 5k and then resolving the Habitat. Not sure why why we didn't call back the PG. The only thing I can guess is maybe we wanted to bounce back whatever we call from the top 7. We did see a copy of Persona Ride there, but we do see the Philander being called here. Unfortunately, it does not proc because it was placed from the deck, and Philander can only work when he is placed from hand. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle up that deck. And then looks like we are going to be using the Shadow Cloak here to Soul Blast one and bounce back the Philander. Kind of interesting. Like, if we had a PG, if we had called the PG back from the drop zone, we would have been able to just bounce it with the Shadow Cloak. Yeah, sure, you don't get to use Philander's skill like we're probably going to use here. Yep, using the Philander. But at the same time, like, that wasn't guaranteed. Like, what if you check top 7 and it was like Persona Ride RPD and triggers. Like, you would have just wasted Shadow Cloak there. Speaking of Shadow Cloak, looks like that's what's going to be milled off of the Philander, and of course the fact that we use Alchemy Magic is going to give our entire front row another 10k power. So we are looking to have a fairly sizable attack force this turn. We've got that RPD that's sitting at 35k base, but at the same time Jheva is at 1, so a lot of these attacks are really not as threatening as they could be, as we do see the RPD just swinging for that 35. A decently difficult block. I mean, that's like 25k shield, which is never a really easy number to, you know, use. I guess we're probably checking crits. Looks like we're going to do a double front trigger for that 30k guard, swinging the Vanguard here. Usually this is the one that you want to take because it's the one that doesn't have a guaranteed crit. We do see the Neil serving being used here to call itself back out. Honestly, I think we probably should have boosted the RPD with the Philander on that first swing. Like, yeah, it makes it so the Neil serving doesn't attack over a defense or hit over a defensive, but realistically, I think you want to do everything you can to make sure that the RPD actually does hit, because that's 2 crits, that's so much more pressure. Even if your Neil serving hits over a defensive, it's still only 1 damage, as opposed to RPD's 2 damage, which is just like guaranteed. So we do see the Deft Illith swinging here for 30k. Once again, very questionable that we called that out. If we had called the Shadow Cloak, if we had called the PG, bounced the PG, and then just moved Shadow Cloak up to the front row, that would have been 35. Not only a better number, but like, you're also not just wasting it in the back row there, as we do see here. So we see the the Neil swinging in, hitting into a second defensive trigger there, this time being a draw, so just that much worse. And we see Jheva starting off with a Persona Ride as well. Using the Jheva skill, looks like we discarded that Veil's Verena, calling back a Trick Star, as well as, let's see which Prayer Dragon we're going to go for. I think we do have like a fair number of options. Looks like we're going to be going for that guy, which I don't know what he is, but I think he's the Battle Door guy. I could be mistaken on that, but I'm just gonna assume. I'm not gonna bother to learn his name. Don't even ask me. So we do have the possibility to cross overdress here. We're probably looking at that Mirror's Rain, and it looks like that is what we're going to be doing. I guess we're probably deciding like which Trick Star we want to keep around. Do we want to boost for Mirrors, or do we want to booster for the Straw Arena? Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we have very many Varenas in the drop zone, so Mirrors is only going to be able to get the one, the what's it called? The Vils. Looks like we're just reading the skill of that sword guy. He does, of course, give Battle Door. I say that with confidence because, I don't know, I've become more sure of myself since the last time I talked about that card. Anyways, getting into the attacks, we do have the Straw Arena swinging in for 33, so really big numbers. Taking this swing, I guess the hand must be really awkward if we're just going to be taking that. Honestly, I think you just take the Battle Door ones mostly, but unfortunately not hitting to a single defensive here. And then, of course, since the opponent is at grade 3, we're going to be able to chain both the skills of that Straw Arena as well as the Vanguard to restand all of our Prayer Dragons and Talisman units. So basically getting exactly 4 attacks. And these numbers are still pretty big. I mean, we're looking at 33 and 35. And the 35, of course, having a Battle Door attached to it. With the number of cards we have left in our hand, we're going to really need them to put in a lot of work here. But you know what would actually be really good to have in hand right now? A PG. You know, I think that not bouncing that PG that we saw in the drop zone earlier is really going to be hurting us this turn. We've got 3 more attacks here. We've got 6 cards in hand. They need to be able to block all of these attacks, and I don't really think that's possible without, you know, a PG here. If we had, like, we could PG the Vanguard. Oh, looks like we have an overtrigger. So if we had that PG, we would have been able to guard this Vanguard swing like this. We PG the Straw Arena, and then, of course, we're going to probably have to hard guard the Mirror's Arena. We do see a critical trigger being flipped here. It's kind of difficult where you want to put this, but it looks like we are going to be putting on the Mirror's Arena because it does have that Battle Door swing for the 45. What we could do here is commit 2 15s and that would be 35, and then we just intercept. So honestly, once numbers get this big, the only problem is like guarding using 3 cards to PG, because you know it's still just like a 3-card guard anyway. If as long as it gets more than 2 cards, it's not that much. That the battle door tends to like not be as effective. If you catch my drift, as you see here, the double 15Ks, and then the intercept is going to be enough to block that. So in reality, the battle door didn't matter as much there. But looks like we are going to have to take this last attack, and unfortunately it is not going to be a heal trigger. So I think that small misplay earlier in the game literally just cost us the match. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to do things, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.